Hey everybody, welcome back. So yesterday I made a video for how to prevent yourself from getting laid off. And today I want to follow up by, what happens once you do get laid off? If you do happen to have that experience, what are we going to do about it? And if I look a little distracted, it's because I've changed my video setup once again. So now I'm looking up at the other monitor. So rather than looking over there, which I found was really distracting, and I want to be as tuned into this as possible so I can see any comments that are coming up and stuff like that. So that's why I'm looking up instead of over today, just in case you're wondering. So let's get right into it. When you get laid off, it's not a good experience typically, right? But I think it's really important to understand that it's not always your fault, right? Especially now as we're looking at layoffs happening like they've never happened before. We've never seen anything like this in history, right? So not only do you have the typical layoff experience, which is one of multiple phases that you go through, but we also have there's nowhere to run scenario, right? Where you have this happening to mass amounts of people right now. So what I'm going to do is go through 10 activities that you can do that will increase your likelihood of getting another opportunity as soon as possible. Also, some techniques included in that on how to get through the next little while. So let's get into that. First of all, let's talk about kind of the phases that you're going to go through after you get laid off. And this is important to think about just so you know what you're mentally processing. And everybody goes through these phases. So I think it's important to get a handle on that, because the quicker you do, the faster you'll be in a better position to get that next role. So typically what happens is people will go into this immediate disbelief, like, this can't be happening to me. What did I do? Maybe I said the wrong thing. Maybe I did the wrong thing. Maybe I could have done that or this, and all this second guessing and really looking at ourselves as though, well, maybe I made a mistake. And quite often, especially right now, it probably had nothing to do with you. It probably was a reaction to the market, a reaction to this global pandemic that we have to try to cope with, right? So I think as quickly as you can get through the disbelief part of it. This is reality. This is happening at a global level. This is something we all have to work with. And so there's a lot of support for everybody out there because of this. More support than we've ever seen before, depending on the country that you live in, of course. But in North America, we're seeing things like there's insurance for people that are self-employed, which we have not seen before in the US, things like that, right? The next stage, of course, is anger. Why did they do this to me, right? I'm a good employee. I don't deserve this. All of that's probably true. However, this is business, and this is the way that it sometimes occurs, right? The next one, of course, is fear. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I have a family, I have bills, I have a mortgage, I have car payments, I have this, I have that. Yeah, that's something that we got to work through. Then there's sadness, of course, right? You no longer get to hang out with your coworkers. You're no longer on that project. There's that. And then there's panic, right? Oh, geez, like it's now been a few days, maybe a few weeks. Now we have bills coming in and that sort of thing. What am I going to do, right? If you have a family, if you have dependents that you're caring for, the panic sets in. And then there's the urgency, right? Now that urgency to act. And those are sort of some of the phases that I typically see people go through. And some of them happen very quickly. Some of them take a little longer. So I think it's important to process those stages so that we can realize that's what we have to get through. It's almost like a grieving process where we have to work through those stages as well as we can. And some will take longer than others, but I think it's important to know that mentally you're processing, you're going through these things. What we need to do is move out of that process zone and out of that turmoil, that emotional turmoil, to get our lives back on track, right? We need to take action. That's really the key word here, is we need to move out of a state of reaction of, oh my God, this has happened to me. What am I ever going to do? Poor me. No, get out of that, victim role and say, okay, fine. The new challenge is here. I'm going to step up to this new challenge. And yeah, it's going to be hard. Yes, you're going to have good days and bad days. And like everything, it's going to be a struggle. The thing that's happened is you've been pushed out of your comfort zone. And that's not nice, right? I'll be honest. that does not feel good. We're used to waking up at a certain time, eating a certain breakfast, having our coffee, getting in the vehicle, driving to work, knowing exactly when we need to start, having that routine. That's been pulled away from you, right? That safety blanket is gone. So now we're fully exposed to this whole new world, and we don't know how it's going to go. So we have to forget about that for a minute and just treat this as another project. And I think that's probably, if you take anything away from this, treat this as another project at work. Have the same discipline, go at it the same way you would as if you were at work, and treat it that way. And have deliverables and schedule things and just build up that same formality that you would. And that's going to help you on multiple levels. It's going to help you deliver and get you where you want to go, but it's also really going to help your mental state as well. Right? So we want to have a plan. We want to have that kind of project management discipline, and that's really going to help. So having said that, now we've talked about the emotional state, how we need to deal with that. And I learned the hard way through this. I had a very emotional state one point in my life, and I spoke to somebody who was well trained in these areas, and he said to me, "What's your plan?" It's like, "Oh, my plan." I said, "Yeah. Do you have a list of things you need to get done? Do you have priorities? Do you have an attack plan here? Do you how are you going to get things figured out?" It's like, "Yeah, okay." And I got to work building that. All of a sudden, I felt so much better. So that worked for me. Hopefully, that worked for you. But let's go through these 10 things that I recommend people do right away. Okay, and there's no time to spare here. Okay, so the first one we talked about a little bit. Stop being emotional about it. Right, this is nothing to do with you necessarily as a person. This has happened to a bunch of people. We need to get over that as quickly as possible to get into that kind of, project management state, to get into that task-driven state of, okay, let's attack this head on and see if we can get a good opportunity. And maybe this is going to be a big turning point in our lives where we get a brand new job that's so much better, and take that approach to it, right? Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable, but you can deal with it just like you've dealt with everything else in your life, right? Everything else in your life is led up to this. You've built up those skills that you need to get through this. And you have a lot of people out there that I'm sure can talk to you and support you through this as well. So that's number one. Let's get over it. Let's get on it, right? Number two, use all your benefits. Now, this is really important because a lot of people don't think about all the benefits that are available to you. Right now, as I mentioned, there's more than there ever was before. So look at your government benefits, right? There's insurance, unemployment insurance, which you can go in for now and claim that to get that source of income. Go do that right now. So you can pause the video and just go do that right now, because you need to get on that as quickly as possible because it takes a little while to get that money, right? So that's one of the first things you want to do is get your registration or your application in there. So you got to get that money so you can have money in your pocket so you can put food on the table. If you don't have a big savings, if you're living paycheck to paycheck like many of us are, then that's going to be really important for you to do. Otherwise, the other alternatives are not as pleasurable. So let's get going on that as quickly as possible. I'll wait for you if you want to go do that right now. Okay, good. Done that? Great. Okay. So the next thing we want to look at is the other benefits that you have out there, right? So there's a bunch of benefits from your previous employer that are still active. And a lot of us don't think about that. A lot of us think about, well, as soon as you're laid off, everything stops. That's not true necessarily, right? So you need to take a look at that. Most of those benefits will continue for the rest of the month. And so this is your perfect opportunity to go see the doctor, to go see the dentist, to go see the eye doctor. If you've got braces, you may need to go look into that. If you go to the gym and that's already paid for, continue doing that, right? If, maybe it's parking. I don't know what the benefits are that you've got that you can still keep using, but some of those have value still. And they're going to continue probably for at least a few more weeks. So this is the opportunity to utilize those and really make sure that you're getting as most value as you can, because right now is when you need it, right? The other thing that some companies offer are kind of like guidance or consulting or counseling to help get you back into the job force. If your company offers that, definitely follow up on that and take a look and see if that's going to help you. It usually does in some form. So take a look at that, see if that's available. You can always talk to your company's HR department, your previous company's HR department, to see what is available to you, what resources are available to you, because generally they want to help you out, right? This was a layoff, not you didn't get fired for poor poor performance. They probably like you and want you to be successful. So looking at that, there's no harm in reaching out to them. And yeah, so that could be another great benefit. The other final one in that area is investments. So if you were contributing to an investment plan with your previous company, take a look at what you're going to do with that. If it was like in Canada, we have RSPs. In the States, I believe it's a 401k that are you're not taxed on. You don't want to touch that, okay? There's a lot of, sometimes people will have the thought or the feeling that they have to pull the money out of that. You don't want to do that. You want to go talk to an accountant or an advisor or somebody about that before you touch that money, because as far as I know, and I'm not an accountant, I'm not a financial advisor, but as far as I know, you really don't want to touch that money. The other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to go into debt. So those are the two things you want to try to stay away from a financial level as much as possible. But if you have an investment plan with your previous company, take a look at that, find out where that money is going to go and how that's going to get utilized. Hopefully that can stay in your retirement plan and build up a little nest egg for you. So number 3 is budget. So right now you don't have a lot of income coming in. So we need to make best use of what you have and really limit the amount of money that's going out, okay? Sure, so you may get hired tomorrow, and I hope you do, but let's play it safe, okay? So let's take this immediate action, just like you went out and got the insurance, the unemployment insurance. Let's take some immediate action here as well and limit your spend, limit any outgoing money. Don't pay anything unless you absolutely have to. So no retail therapy, stop doing that. No more ordering from Amazon, no more going out to the movies, no more going out for dinner, stop all that. That's my recommendation. I mean, if you have tons of savings and that's really not going to be a big deal, then sure, but a lot of us don't. So that's something to think about. We want to keep that money as long as we can, that little bit of money that we have, or maybe it's a lot, I don't know, but a lot of us don't have a lot of that or a big nest egg. So let's see, cancel all your subscriptions. So if you have subscriptions out there for, like I have a bunch of things like Netflix and a bunch of other streaming audio and a bunch of little services, right? Cancel all those. You can always sign up again once you need them. But right now, you need to get to work to go get another job. So you're not going to have time to be watching Netflix or any of those other things anyway. So cancel them, save your money for this month. You can always sign up again, right? If you're paying rent or if you have a mortgage, check and see if that can be deferred. Sometimes there's options where that can be deferred a month or two, and you'll continue to pay interest on that capital, or on the large amount, but it will save you that out-of-pocket operating cost right now, which could really help you get through the next couple months, right? And yeah, any other payments that you can delay, like maybe car payments or anything else like that, see if you can delay those for at least a month. Even a month is going to help you out quite a bit, right? And yes, your interest is going to build up a little bit, and that ideally that's not great. But right now we're kind of in firefighting mode, right? So I really think that is a good option for you to look at. All right. Number 4 is income. So that was number 3 was budget. Number 4 is income. So number 3 is reducing costs, saving money, not letting what you've got go out. And number 4 is bringing more money in, right? So, and that's what we really are concerned about, is because you're looking at that. So how can you immediately begin making money? And of course, the government support is one of those ways. So in step 1 or 2, was it? We went out and applied for that so we could get that coming in right away. There's other things you could do, right, that you may not have thought about. Of course, you can sell some of your stuff. So you can put some of your stuff, maybe some of that junk that you never use anymore, some of those old hobbies or sports you used to play, where you have stuff just in the garage and stuff like that. Remember that old pool table you got in the other room that you don't use anymore? Sell that, right? You can get a couple $100 for that probably. Go around and take a look, do a little inventory of what you want to get rid of. You'd be surprised how much money you can make just by getting rid of your junk, right? So that's a good option. You've got the time right now too, so you might as well, right? What about tutoring? Maybe you're good at something. Maybe you know a language, and you can start tutoring people with a language. Yeah, I know maybe you're not making as much per hour as you used to make, but it's cash, right? And it's going to allow you to, last a little longer without having to dip into savings and things like that. Plus, you probably have the time right now, so it might be a good way for you to make new friends and kind of take a look at different career options. It may not be tutoring, it may be something totally different, right? So, but you could probably make money at that sort of thing. So take a look at that. I think the last the last thing that I would look at is dipping into your savings. I wouldn't dip into your retirement fund, but if you've got that emergency fund, then that would be the final option as far as income, right? Once you've sold some of your stuff and looked at other options like that. But hopefully you don't have to do that too much. Step 5 is adapt. So this is where we need to be flexible. We need to start looking at, what do we need to do to really be successful here? What do we have to change? So be open to change, right? This may be an opportunity for you to make a complete career change. This might be the turning point in your life, right? And I know it's hard to look at it that way right now, because right now you're thinking about, well, how am I going to pay rent, right? And that's a valid concern, but keep your mind open that, and quite often this happens, that you're about to go down a road that's much different than where you thought you were going to go, and it can be very rewarding. So don't be fearful of exploring other options, and don't close doors. Right now, you want as many options open as possible. So don't say no right away to people. If people say, "Oh yeah, you probably wouldn't be interested in that. It's totally different than what you do, but you might be good at it." Don't say no. Say, "Oh, tell me more. Tell me more." Right? Keep that net wide. Right? We want a very wide net at this point. You can always filter down and say, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that." But I would be very, very, what's the right word? Hesitant to do that. I would try to keep your net wide. And what's the worst that could happen, right? You go and take a job that's totally different than what you have now. You start getting paid, which is good, right? And then you don't like it. And then you go find another job while you have that job, right? Getting paid is good. So if you have a job that gets paid, and maybe it's not your favorite job, maybe you decide that was a total crazy mistake, and you were ridiculously silly to do it. Well, sure, but now you're getting paid to do that, right? And you've learned something. So, if you make a mistake like that, I think that's a good mistake to make, because now you're paying your mortgage and your car payments and things like that. So don't worry about that. I mean, a job is a job, right? And at least then you'll know that you don't like doing that, whatever it was. So think about that. Number 6 is build your opportunity pipeline. So we talked about adapting, being flexible, being open. Now we want to start building that opportunity pipeline and start getting those leads, almost like you're in sales, right? I'm using the same sort of terminology that you would in sales. You're building those leads, those opportunities, because really that's what you're doing. You're selling yourself. So with any good sales program, you need to make sure that you've got good literature. You want to make sure you've got your details in order. So you need to take a look at your resume. Some people call it a CV, whatever you want to call it. It's that piece of paper that's got all the information on it that sells you to an employer. I'm not going to get into how many pages it needs to be, or whether you want to have pictures on it or whatever. I would say try to make it as concise and professional as possible, and make sure that it's error-free. So you want to spend a great deal of time on your resume. If you want to have somebody else look at it for you, that's a good idea. If you want to pay a professional to go through it, that's a good idea too. But your resume needs to be spotless, error-free. It needs to be amazing, okay? Because you're putting it in a pile with a whole bunch of other ones that will be that way. So that's your competition. You need to beat the competition with your resume. That's step 1, right? When a hiring manager is going through applicants, the resume is the first thing. They spend about, 10 to 30 seconds per resume to filter them out, right? So if they see a spelling error, a grammar error, inconsistencies, questions, not what they're looking for, gone, right? So make sure you spend ample time on your resume, and make sure it's error-free, and get those second opinions, right? So resume, you've done that. That's looking good. You're happy with it. It's very professional looking. Now get on LinkedIn and make sure that looks good as well, because that's where they're going to go quite often this day and age, right? To go look at your information. Make sure it's consistent. Make sure it's professional. Make sure it has stuff in there that hiring managers want to read. Do you have certifications? Do you know different languages? Do you have good experience? Have people spoken on your behalf and giving you accolades that says, oh yeah, you're awesome? Make sure that's in there. This is a great time to reach out to people to say, hey, can you give me those accolades as well, right? Can you give me those kind words of encouragement so other employers can see that, right? If people, and that's the other thing, you need to talk to your friends and family and previous coworkers and things like that and let them know your situation. Don't have any shame in that because it happens to everybody. Everybody's going to understand, especially now that this is a global thing. This is not you. This is global, right? So people won't hesitate to help you out, but you got to ask for it because people won't know necessarily that you're laid off. So make sure you talk to them about it, about your situation, and they'll probably ask you, hey, what can I do to help you? Hey, I wonder if there's a job in my company, right? You're going to get that sort of response if they care about you. And while you're talking to them, you can say, hey, would you mind sending me that little note in LinkedIn and help me build up that online profile, right? It definitely helps. So do that. One of the things you can do is you can also start volunteering for different places, look for things that you're interested in. That will, and the reason I bring that up is because it will give you good experience. It will allow you to meet a whole new group of people in an area you probably have interest in. And that can also provide you leads to new employment as well. So I think that's a win-win across the board for you. You have time right now to go do that. It's not going to be crazy amounts of time. If it is, that's not going to be for you right now because you need to spend time job hunting. But it's well worth looking at, okay? The other one that's similar to that is studying. This is a good time for you to study, to get that certificate, to learn that language, to learn that skill, whatever it is. And it's very timely for you to be doing that because you can build that into your day, maybe 1 hour a day, and it also gives you things to talk about during the interview. Hey, I'm learning this right now, and that gives you stories to tell in the interview. And I'll talk about interviews one day as well if there's demand for that. But I think having that fresh in your mind, that new knowledge that you're learning, tells employers that you're willing to learn, and that's huge, right? When we hire people, we're often hiring people based on our ability to work with them. We don't expect people to know everything. What we expect is people that are willing to learn. So if you're learning right now and you can talk about that in the interview, that's huge, right? So this is a great time to start studying anything, hopefully something within your career path or your job skill set. And so that would be good. The other thing you want to do is we want to start preparing for those interviews. So we want to take a look at our clothes, right? When was the last time you went for an interview? Might have been years ago, maybe decades, right? So we want to make sure we've got some nice shoes, polish up those shoes. Do you have a suit? Do you have a tie, right? Maybe you want to get a haircut, trim that beard, right? Whatever you need to do to look as professional as possible. Now, I know many of you are thinking, no, I'm relaxed, right? I like to go in there and just show them really like who I am. And I don't want to fake it with a suit and tie or any of that. Well, no, that's the wrong way to do it. If you're going to go work at a surf shop, then maybe you can walk in there with flip-flops, shorts, and a t-shirt on. But if you're working anywhere else, right, everybody else, every other candidate that goes in there is going to be dressed as professionally as possible. And if you want a job in a professional place, you should too, right? It's showing respect to the people that are interviewing you to dress up, right? That's what's expected. I don't know anywhere that wouldn't expect you to come in dressed up as a professional, right? And a professional would have that level of formality, and I would expect a suit and tie in almost every instance. So, maybe not a tie in this day and age in some businesses, but when you're going to your interview, this is formality, right? This is first impressions. This is as good as you can get, right? This is what the hiring manager is thinking is this is the best version of this person. So when you roll in with flip-flops and a t-shirt on, that's the best you can do, right? So as a hiring manager, like I would think to myself, like, what are you thinking, right? So not all of you will have a suit and tie maybe, and that's totally fine. Maybe you go out and buy one, or maybe you just wear your best clothes and you iron them and make sure they're clean, and you dress up as professional as you can, depending on the job that you're getting, right? So if you're a roofer and you're getting a job to put roofs on houses, maybe you don't wear a suit and tie. But if you're a white collar worker in an office, you most definitely are, right? For a roofer, I don't know what you would wear for a job interview, but I would still be as clean cut as possible, right? This is the best version of you going into the interview, right? So, all right, sorry, I stuck on that quite a bit. But really, I see a lot of people making the mistakes like that, and I really want to try to help clarify that. The other thing that we want to do is practice. Start practicing for that interview. How do you practice for interviews? Well, go and Google interview questions and pretend people are asking you those questions and develop answers for them, right? Why are you not working? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Those are good ones to start with, right? But there's all sorts of behavioral type questions. Give me an example of an instance when you did this, and what did that look like, right? So that's sort of behavioral type question where you're giving real world examples of what you did. Those are great. And what you want to do with those is tell a story, right? And that's what it is. It has a story arc. There was a challenge. You accepted the challenge. You fixed the challenge or the problem, and everybody lived happily ever after, right? That's what we're looking for. So create your stories, right? And I don't want you to embellish or lie about your stories. I want you to find real world stories. And I know everybody's got them. Sometimes you have to think about it a little bit to get good ones, but you have got time right now to think about it. So think back on those stories. And it doesn't have to be from yesterday. It can be from 10 years ago. Just acknowledge that, it was a little while ago. But a good story is a good story. And if it tells your potential employer how you excelled, how you showed value, how you fixed problems, how you worked with a team, right? How you were successful underneath great pressure or obstacles or anything like that, those are good. Like, write those down, memorize them, have those ready, right? And yeah, so that's number 6, build the opportunity pipeline. So number 7 is increase your value. So right now, more than ever, there's a whole bunch of people that have just flooded into the job market that don't have jobs, and they're all competing with you. So we need to beat them, right? Like, it's the free market, and we need to be better than everybody else because we're competing for that job that you want, and I want you to get that job. So what we need to do is we need to provide more value than our competitors. We need to come across as more professional than our competitors. We need to put more work into it than our competitors, right? We need to outwork them, basically. And you can do that. It's just time, and you have time right now. So we want to do, we can do other things. We can do all the things that we just talked about, and we can do maybe some more training. We can fill any gaps that we have. So if you're applying for a job and you're looking at it and they list a bunch of things, and there's one thing there that you're maybe not that good at, or you've never been trained in before, or you've never done that before, well, let's fix that problem, right? Let's go onto the internet. It's learning by demand these days, right? Go onto YouTube, find a little bit more about that thing, whatever it is, so you can talk about it. And you can do this. You can go into the interview and you say, you know what? I know all these things. I know 9 out of 10 things that you're looking for, but that 10th thing, I saw it on the job description, and I've never done that before. But you know what I did? I went and learned it. So you can ask me any question you want about it, and I'll tell you all about it, right? Or maybe you want to tell them a little bit about it and say, hey, this is what I learned about it. I'm really excited to learn more about it. I'm really excited to do that task. And I feel like I'm in a pretty good position now to go do it, even though, before I didn't. And that, again, shows that you're willing to learn. And it actually, even though you didn't have that skill set before, now at least you know what it is. Now at least you can talk about it. And that's a big deal. So other things you want to look at is maybe they're asking for a certain certificate or something like that. You can go online now and you can get those certificates if you really apply yourself pretty quickly. So a lot of times these certificates will say, oh, you have to study for 6 months. No, you don't. No, you don't. You can do it in 6 weeks or less, right? It really just depends how much time you're applying to it, how many resources you put into it. So there's a lot of things on YouTube, on the internet, where you can really study in many different ways: video, audio, text. And if you're spending a lot of time on this, you can get that certificate actually really quickly. So don't underestimate your ability to achieve in that area very quickly now that you're not working. So that's something to think about as well. All right, number 8 is network. Network doesn't mean like your computer network. Network, I mean, you want to meet a huge amount of people over the next time interval until you get that next job, right? So until you're employed, your job now is not only to do all those other things I just mentioned, but you want to start networking with people. Again, it's like we're in sales, right? We're selling you, right? So you want to go to different meetings, whatever meetings that might be, hopefully in your career area. Go look up meetups.com, see what kind of meetups are happening. Those are fun to go to. Maybe there's different functions or conferences maybe that are free. You don't want to be spending money, right? Remember, we're not spending money right now. So you want to go look at that. Maybe there's some groups in your neighborhood that you can go to that focus on particular areas. Again, volunteer for stuff. Buy people coffee. Now, I know that you're spending a little bit of money there, but it's an investment in a relationship that you could possibly build. So if there's people out there that you could talk to about what the market is like, or what that job might be like, or anything like that, you can reach out to them and say, hey, can I buy you coffee? I just want 20 minutes of your time. I'll buy you coffee. You tell me when and where. I'll show up, and I just want to go through these questions with you, and maybe even show them the questions so they're not going to get blindsided by you, and so that they're more likely to say, yeah, sure, no problem. And I'm going to bet they're going to buy you the coffee, right? Because people like to help other people. But if you reach out to them in a professional way, show them what you're looking for, then it could be a great relationship you could build there, and a great way to expand your network. Of course, you can do it online as well with LinkedIn and stuff like that. So that's another great way to do it. Number 9 is select your opportunity. And so this is now, you've built that pipeline of opportunities. You've got some stuff coming in. You're starting to look at what you want to do. And what I find is you'll go with nothing. It'll just be barren of opportunities. And then all of a sudden you'll get 2, 3, 5, and it'll just be crazy. It almost always works that way. And it's just, I don't know why, but it always does. So don't be surprised if you get 3 job offers or 3 interviews almost all in the same week after a month or so of nothing, right? So, because I find that's pretty typical. So some of the things that I would look for in a good opportunity, right, when you're making that selection of, okay, am I going to go work there, is look at the people. I've been doing this quite a while, and there's a bunch of things I look at, but the primary thing that I'm looking at is the people. And I've gone for jobs before where I'm like, this is way too far of a drive. This commute is going to kill me. This is not exactly what I was doing before. I don't like the building, all these things, right? But the people were awesome. And I went there because of the people. And really, at the end of the day, not much else mattered. And all those other things actually improved over time. So it was one of the best decisions I ever made. So I would recommend, look at the people. Are the people professional? Are the people that you would enjoy spending the day with, right? Can you relate to them? They seem nice, right? So that sort of stuff I would look for. Be open to further challenge. So is this new role going to be challenging for you? Maybe it's a little bit, above what you're comfortable with. There's nothing to lose at this point, right? Have confidence in yourself. Be ready to work hard and learn fast, right? So figure out a way, figure out your 3-month plan on how you're going to do that. But I'd say go for it, right? Don't be worried about having a different job, because it may very well be quite different. Maybe a different position. The culture in the company is going to be different. It might be very different, right? But don't be turned off by that. It might actually be good. And if it's not, you can always change again later, but at least you'll have a job, right? Different commute. So I talked about that a little bit. Again, I wouldn't be too worried about that. It's something to think about, but it shouldn't be a deal breaker for you. All right, number 10. Once you have the role, or you're getting into a new role, you want to begin your 3-month plan with that new employer. You're on this kind of like try and buy phase with the employer, right? So the employer is watching you. You're on this kind of, what do they call it? I forget the word for it, but like a trial. They're kind of watching to make sure you're going to fit in. So you want to make sure that you fit in, and you want to make sure you learn what they're expecting. That's the big thing, right? Is you want to learn. You want to just kind of take it all in, talk to people, ask some questions, practice that active listening. So you're actually listening to what people say and not just waiting to interrupt and show them how smart you are. No, you really want to learn what they care about, what they expect from you, what success looks like for you in your new role, right? What are they expecting you to deliver? And when are they expecting you to deliver that? What frequency do they expect you to report status on? What's the culture there? What's the right behaviors that you should be showing, right? How do people eat lunch? Where do they eat lunch? What does that look like? When do people come into the office? When do people leave, right? What are the relationships in the office? Who talks to who, right? That sort of stuff. What are the processes? So you don't want to be going out of the bounds of established processes too much, right? Because otherwise they have to show you, and they're going to be worried that you didn't do it right, and that may cause risk and all these things, right? So you basically are trying to fit into this new tribe, and I think that's the best way to look at it, right? People that have been there a while, they're very proud of their culture, very proud of their company. You're this new person coming in, stirring things up. Be careful, right? You want that 3 months is your time to build relationships with these people, to show them that you're there, that you care about them, that you're part of the team, that you're going to help them preserve their tribe and their culture and make it even better, right? That's your job in the first 3 months. So those are the 10 things you can do to get back in the job, get back in the workforce and get a job again. And I hope that was helpful to you. And please leave your comments down below and let me know what's worked for you, what hasn't worked for you, if any of these tips have worked for you. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, hit the bell button down there if you want to be notified of future videos. And if you've got ideas for other videos that you'd like me to do, please let me know that as well. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much, and safe travels. I can't turn it off.